Hey everyone, so glad that you could join us today. I hope you've got your coffee with you and we can just sit at the table and relax, enjoy the conversation. If you're new to this channel, I hope that you will be inspired by her story, and I know you will be today. I've got a guest with me, Jackie. So welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to see you. We've been talking for a while back and forth, so it's nice to finally meet.
Yes, definitely.
And so where do you live, Jackie?
I live in southeastern Montana.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly grew up here, and it's a beautiful area. We're having some colder temperatures right now, so it's
Oh,
interesting in this summertime. We're usually in the 90s and stuff, but we're having, yeah, some cool nights. And
okay. So that Montana mountains, that mountain area, right?
no, we're more of the Badlands and the plains and some kind of rocky hills.
Okay.
A real
Okay.
pretty area.
Sounds good. I'm in Manitoba in Canada.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always interesting getting together on Zoom because Zoom's connected everybody. So it's
Yeah.
just, a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
times it's all over the States, but sometimes even different countries. So I always try and figure out the accent. That sometimes
Right. Now,
not
where is
always.
Manitoba above? Which states is that above? Are you
Right,
on that?
right above North Dakota.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you're right
Not
next.
too far,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So, yeah. So you are a mother of 10.
Yes.
Well, congratulations, you've survived.
Yes, I have. It's been a journey and we're still in it, right? But
Wow.
it's been an amazing God story. Just
Okay.
amazing. My life doesn't work without God. So I'm
I I don't know
thankful.
how anybody can do life without God.
Right.
Honestly, right?
It's
Like, yeah, these days I wouldn't even attempt it.
no, yeah, no, I need him. I need his wisdom, direction, protection, just his covering. So yeah,
So how old is your oldest?
the oldest is 27
And
and the
the youngest?
is 9.
Okay.
So I have the 10, no twins. We had them one at a time, and that's what we said when I was an overwhelmed mom of 3, called to raise a large family, and I asked my husband what he thought, and he said we both said we'll just take one at a time, and that's how they came. And so I was pregnant or nursing for almost 20 years. Just
Wow.
there was not really much of a break between that, just like one after another.
So
So
the older ones would be helping, but it would have been exhausting. I would think it would be exhausting.
it was a very, I needed God, still need God, but he got me through all those sleepless nights. I remember the years where I would be picking up toys and actually throwing them just in the garbage, especially like the little McDonald ones
Oh yeah.
that I was like, I'm not picking this up again as I was pregnant, And I did have the children help as well, but you know how that goes. Sometimes it's like, okay, you go take your nap and I'll finish.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
So your husband was working hard, I'm sure, to help in home at the home in the home.
Yeah, yeah, we always ran our own business, and except for just a short time in there later in our lives, and we had a greenhouse landscape business. So as we homeschooled the kids, then we would also have them help in our greenhouse and landscaping, which was an amazing time of connecting as a family, of growth, and all the things. And so, yeah, my husband has, of almost 31 years, has an entrepreneur heart. And
That would be an incredible business to teach, like to grow to teach the kids not only business, but agriculture and um, how life grows. There's all kinds of seeds planted there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was beautiful. It was a lot of work,
I'm
for my
sure.
husband, and then I was more in the home raising kids and having the babies and stuff. But we would connect out there and get, like I'd say, okay, the kids and I will come out and plant these or water or, whatever parts we could take part in. And then it was a great space for the older kids to then learn the business and work in it,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know. And so, yes, it was beautiful. And then it was time to shut that down. When we had 8 kids, it had been open for 8 years. We had 8 kids. It was time. My husband
Very
had,
busy time.
yeah, and he hadn't taken the time to build himself so much during that time. And so he went into kind of a breakdown depression season. He was overwhelmed, stressed, worked hard, then would come home to the family, and it just all kind of caught up to him.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it likely would have felt, I'm assuming it would have felt as though he just, yeah, couldn't keep up and couldn't
Yeah.
take a break.
Right. Yeah. And because of his type A personality or whatever, he just kept, I'm making this work, and
Good for him.
oh, yeah, but yeah, so after a time of depression, breakdown season, and God actually took him out of our home, gone more than he was home for a year and a half because he went into a job that took him away from home. It was the oil field of North Dakota.
Oh my gosh.
So, about that same time, we had put 7 kids in the public school system. He was out of town more than he was home for a year and a half. And I was going to Bible school. And
How in
so
the world
God
did you
just
do
was,
all that, Jackie? Like,
like I said, only by the grace of God.
oh
It
my
was just
gosh.
moment by moment with God. And I got a chance to see what it was like to be a single parent, in a sense.
Yeah.
I got a chance to see what it was like, those families that did that a lot, where their husbands would be gone for 8 days, home for 6, and it was constant changing. It was like vacation when dad came home, and then anyway, just keeping up with all the chores and all the things. It was a time God was stripping me, and he had been all through, of relying on other things besides him.
And there's a lot of families that are like that. You
Mm.
know, there's a lot of occupations that take people away from their families for times. Even shift work can do that.
Yeah.
So um it's being a married single person. Married
Hmm.
single parent, I guess,
Yeah.
and then the parent that's away comes home and it's a completely different schedule, like you said, holiday when dad comes home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
the
then all the
schedule gets
chores.
all messed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that's hard.
yeah, it really made me appreciate all those families that did that for years, and just I was thankful to see into their lives for that little bit of like, wow, that takes a lot of patience
Yeah.
and flowing rather than, just
Mhm.
being rigid, and it had to be very flexible and
Yeah, that's how I raised my kids. My husband was on shifts, so when he was working, he was gone. When he wasn't working, he was home, but had a side business, so he was gone still. So it
right.
was he's there and he's not. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I only had 2 kids, not 10. So
Okay. Hey,
I don't know how I
God
did
gives us,
that.
yeah, God gives us what we need for our path in life.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so your kids mostly were in private school or homeschool or mix of both or?
Mostly homeschool. I graduated the three oldest ones through homeschool. And then the seven of them I put into public school. They've been in for 6 years. So I've done both. I've switched. It was scary. It wasn't easy, but I obeyed God. It wasn't, I just wanted my kids where he wanted them.
Yes.
That that was the best place, and I'm thankful for both. I love the homeschool lifestyle. I learned to flow in that well, and it almost like God showed me when we make our place that we're in glorious, he moves us to the next place of glory, right? He moves us from
Yeah.
glory to glory. So I learned to flow in the homeschool season well, and doing that the best I could, right? And then I got a chance to do public school as best I could. And so I'm thankful for his faithfulness and his guidance in life.
And there's a time and a season for things too. When your kids are in public school, that's an opportunity for parents to volunteer and change the atmosphere. You're
Yeah,
taking God in with you. So,
exactly. Yeah. So I know I always tell parents, wherever God is leading you, there isn't one place that is the best. All of them, what I found is life happens no matter where you're at. Like
right.
when I was homeschooling, I was having a baby every other year. Life would happen that way. When I put my kids in school, I saw teachers were gone a lot, and they would have other things come up in the school, that one place wasn't a better opportunity for learning except for being where God wanted them at the time.
Yeah.
you
And
know
that's the best place.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is options. So the best place is where he is.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jackie, what has God taught you? What's the big lesson that he's taught you?
The big lesson is living according to the word rather than the circumstances, almost like
Okay.
believing the word of God over what's happening in life. I had a lot of things happen, like when my husband went through the breakdown depression season. I had a choice to either believe what the word says about a husband and my husband, or believe what was actually happening, which was very negative at the time, very
Mhm.
trying. Um, and so I learned to speak the word and what I wanted to see. Like, I'll just say what the little confession that I created out of Ephesians 5, that God led me to speak out. And I would say, my husband loves me as Christ loved the church. He washes me with the word. He lives with me in an understanding way. He nourishes and cherishes me, loves me as his own body, and we are one. And I would say that even though that's not what I was seeing, right?
Right. It's not what it
I
looked like.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
what it looked like. But the other thing that I could have been doing was pouring into destruction by saying he's a horrible man. I don't, I could have been saying all the things that would have torn the marriage down even more than it was already trying to be, you know, torn down. And so I just saw how believing God and the word, even during that same season, I had such a broken heart over some other things that were happening with some other family members. And I just learned to speak the word of, like, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up
Yes.
their wounds, and believing that he would do that for me rather than sitting in that pain that I knew I can't live with this pain.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so That's the biggest thing, is just believing God and choosing growth in the trials rather than wishing them away.
Yeah,
You
what's God trying to teach us when we're in the muck? What's he
know?
trying to teach us in there?
Yes. And the thing is, what I realized, there's always a trial going on, whether it's the loss of a loved one or losing your keys. There's always some sort of a
Yeah,
trial,
yeah,
some sort of a situation that can bring us down or just discourage us. But if we choose, like the word says in James 1 2 through 4, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Well, the next part of the verse says, because it's the testing of your faith
yeah.
and it will produce patience. So if we can see the trial as, okay, this is testing me. Am I going to stand with God, believe Him, even though it looks like it's not going to work out, you know? And if we choose growth in it, it will make us mature and complete, lacking nothing.
That's good. That's
Mhm.
good. No matter what our mess is,
Yep.
choosing to see it from God's perspective
Mhm.
instead of it's easy to see from our perspective because we're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than going, oh
Oh
no, not
no.
this again, and wishing it away, which we don't have to like the trial, right? He's not
No,
saying
no,
you have to
no.
like it,
But it's
but
in the crushing and it's in the that's where we get refined.
yes.
It's in the
Mhm.
fire we get refined. It's in the crushing we get the oil. So
Yes.
yeah,
It's
it's not necessarily a pretty process.
no, it can be very hard.
Messy.
But will we keep just hanging on to
Yeah,
Jesus and believing that He's going to work it out for our good because we love Him?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And that's where trusting in his faithfulness, that
Mhm.
he loves us enough to put us through that test and refine us.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So how did he teach you all that?
Hmm. Yeah, there's probably many stories about that. I guess one other one that I haven't covered yet is when my husband was going through the hard season before God took him out of our home for that short time. Um, I just was like, God, what do you want me to do? You know how we can pray and go, what do I do? Almost desperate prayers, but
Mhm.
not really listen.
Yeah,
What are you saying? So finally, I just got quiet. I was like, God, I know you don't want us to just stay in this negative spot. What do you want me to do? And I was pregnant with my 10th at the time and homeschooling, and, so I had a
exhausted.
date with that. Yeah,
Just sounds so exhausting.
right.
You're very brave. I'm very impressed.
Oh, well, only God, right? Only with God. But what I heard him say was, pack your bag.
Oh,
And I was like, God, I don't want to leave my husband. I don't want to divorce, or where will I go? But what he told me in that moment was, just pack your bag. That's all I said. But we create drama around it sometimes. I think of this story, and this is what he brought up for me as I was having this conversation with him, is the story of Abraham. And
okay.
God asked him to sacrifice his son.
Yeah.
And Abraham wouldn't have wanted to do that specifically, but he knew his God and he knew he was faithful and he knew he would work it out for good. And he just took the steps of it. And if he would have shared it with a friend, a pastor, a loved one, they would have said, God wouldn't tell you that,
No, no.
And so I knew, I'm like, because that was all I heard. And I knew I was in a spot where I wasn't seeking that. And so I said, okay. So I just packed my bag. I did not know where I was going to go. The money was very tight then. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, but I just took the step. And my husband, ironically, he had taken the children to church that morning. I had stayed back because I wasn't because of our situation. I was kind of like, I just need to kind of stay home and relax and pray and stuff. And when he got home, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I can't live this way anymore." So it was like specific words that God told me to say.
Mhm.
And after a short conversation, he said, "No, I'll go." So
Oh,
I didn't even have to leave. And so, and normally he wasn't the type to say, "No, I'll go." He'd be like, "This is my house." So you could see God just working it all out. And because of that step of obedience, my husband left for a few days. We had a place about an hour out of town where I wouldn't have gone because it didn't have water and sewer. But it was and I was pregnant, so I wouldn't have gone by myself. But
yes.
he could go out there. It had heat and lights and a covering, it was warm in there and stuff. And he could go and just take some time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that step of obedience for me got us on the path of restoration.
Yes, he is.
It didn't change everything at the moment, but it just shifted, what was going on. And so I was thankful for God showing me that to just just obey that simple step and just listen to what he was asking me to do and not create drama around it and all the details that cause us not to obey, right?
Well,
All the
that
what.
that could have been a very scary situation. You had all these emotions of I mean, you could have been anxious, you could have been fearful of what's
Mm,
going to happen. And again, just stepping back and seeing from God's perspective
yeah.
and taking time to just pause and relax
Hmm.
and well, just pause and sit at his feet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, life is busy and it's swirling around all the time. So
Mhm.
we need to just pause.
Yes. Yeah. And just do that thing, even if it's uncomfortable. Most of the things that God asks us to do are not super comfortable. If you look at the things in
Oh,
the Bible, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
Old Testament, the thing he asked Moses to do, thing he asked Noah to do,
yeah, yeah.
and Abraham, I mean, it wasn't what was popular. Like the crowd or the friends would not have agreed.
Yeah.
So I think we need to live more like that, of just doing that thing, that uncomfortable, unfamiliar thing that God's saying, and watch him do something amazing with it.
He wants us to be obedient.
Hmm.
We're his kids. So it's
Yeah.
in obedience that we're actually going to learn the lessons. The
Hmm.
heart,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very good. So,
Yeah.
so after a couple of days, your husband came home and
Yep. And got us on a better path. And then about 6 months to a year later, he was then taken into a different job in the oil field so that we had a chance to be refreshed, to miss him. It was amazing how God, even though it was a super difficult time, a super challenging time for me and my husband being away from the family, he did not love that either, living in a man camp.
yeah,
That's
that would
not
have been
his
hard because
style. He's like,
yeah,
what am I doing here? I have a wife and kids at home. But it it did bring refreshing to him. He had time to think, time to kind of gain vision again about what he wanted in life, and what God wanted for him. And then after a year and a half, God brought him back home.
and like you said, being in the man, I was going to say man cave, but the man camp, he would
Yeah.
it would be, for a family man, that would be really difficult.
Yeah,
And he could see what he didn't want. And
exactly.
he'd be really missing you.
Yeah, he missed us, and God took him. It was actually about the time COVID hit, and that little bit of time before that, that he was sent out to like Pittsburgh on a job and sent down to Denver. And I would always ask him, I'm like, is what you're looking for there? Is this it? And he'd be like, no, I don't want to live in Pittsburgh and I don't want to live in Denver, and it just kind of gave him some perspective of,
Yeah.
okay, where I was, even though we needed to shut down a business, it is home. It's, kind of confirming to him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you've
And
had the same home the whole time, raising your family?
except for the first four, we lived in another city a few hours away. But yeah, the last six were born here in our home, and or not
Yeah.
in the home, but had all hospital births actually.
Wow.
But yeah, we've lived here for 21 years.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you, Jackie. So my final question is, um, what does love look like to you? How has God taught you to love? God is love. And so that's just who he is. So when we're connected to him, he wants to release our love, his love through us.
Right.
So I'd like to see what that looks like in
Yeah,
other people. So how has he taught you love?
that's a beautiful question. So, first of all, for me, I realized I couldn't love well without receiving his love, kind of like you just said. And so he taught me to live from a place of being loved. I'm his
Okay.
beloved.
Right.
I'm loved. That's just who I am. It's part of my identity. And so then from there, then as I walk out, in the world that God's put me in, um, I get to address things that come up, the trials, all different circumstances, from a place of love. So I'm not looking for love from my children, even though I love them, they love me, and I'm thankful for that. But if they choose not to love me, I know I'm okay because I'm
Right.
already loved. It's like in Christ, we can come from a full place, a complete whole place, right? And one of the ways that he taught me that in my home was I used to be a yeller and get upset. The certain instance was a morning breakfast could be spilled milk, cereal all over the floor, and a glass broken. You know,
I'm,
and
I'm sure at least that much with
yeah,
But
and
I mean,
so
I'm imagining a birthday party for every meal.
exactly, yeah, and then the baby needing attention, and I'm like, but what God showed me was, Jackie, you yelling at the kids and becoming angry when there's spilled milk, when there's cereal,
Yeah.
you're showing your kids that you love a clean house
Yeah.
and no messes, or not the nuisance of having to clean up another mess
Yeah.
more than them. And I was like, I don't want them to think that. I don't want it to look that way. And I could see the way I was being in my home would be was more important than a clean house. You know,
Yep.
the process of the way we're being as we go through process of life is so much more important
Yeah.
than the end result, even because if we're daily choosing to be love, right,
Yeah.
to be peaceful, to be joyful, then our end result is going to be what we want because we've chosen to walk in those fruits all the way through. And it's, that's going to get us a good end result that we
Well,
want, right?
and it's seeing love as well, it's seeing people, sorry, the situation with relationship and
Mhm.
community, and that's so much more important than environment.
Right. Yeah.
So what are we focusing on?
Yeah.
The perfect looking house or the person who's visiting.
Exactly. And for me, with that many kids, and it was like, am I gonna love this more than them? What am I gonna have if I do that?
Yeah,
I would have been high strung, a total disaster
yeah,
inside, and my kids would have as well, because they would have been watching me. Mom gets mad at every. Um, and I knew I didn't want that. And so God graciously taught me to just yield to Him and back up and not want my own agenda there, but to want
very
His
good.
will in my own home, doing my own chores, my own kids, just personal daily life.
Yeah, well, we teach them. We teach them out of love.
Hmm.
I mean, all the things to help in the house, to help in the chores or whatever. That's teaching them. That's just raising them.
Yeah.
That's part of who they are.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's one way he taught me to walk in love rather than not.
that's
Be-
very good. Yeah, that's very good. He does really treasure community. Everything is around community and
Mm,
others. I mean, we could go to him with prayer, and we do often, but when we ask someone else to pray with us or for us, he
mhm.
wants that because we need each other. We're
Yeah.
built that way to desire and to need each other. So,
Mm,
especially women, we're just very community, very relational. So,
mhm.
yeah. Jackie, thanks so much for sharing. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure that you've inspired some other people, maybe not to have 10 kids, but but to enjoy their kids,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know, and
just,
that's
yeah.
the biggest thing, just learning to love our families. It's
Mhm.
that's where he's got us. So
Yes, for
thank you
sure.
so much, Jackie. And I'm sure that I'd like to have you back another time to just get into the homeschooling part of it. So we look forward to that.
Yes, I look forward to that too. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. And like I said before, people who are new to this channel, please subscribe and leave a comment if you have questions for Jackie. She'll be able to answer them. Um, just share with your friends. Yeah, we can inspire each other, encourage each other. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.